the Supreme Court has made it harder for federal judges to issue sweeping rulings that block presidential policies across the country. This was a 6-3 decision. Dr. Johnson, the court sided with the Trump administration, basically saying that these nationwide injunctions, which have been used by both parties to freeze major policies, go beyond what federal courts are supposed to do. Now, we had someone text in because Gee and I reacted at the top of the first hour, and we were saying, you know, this is just more power for one person, specifically Donald Trump. And someone texted in and said he doesn't have any more power than other presidents in our history. Do you agree with that statement?
That's completely untrue. And whoever texted you, I'm surprised they know how to work a phone, like objectively. Because look, if you look at the Supreme Court rulings from last summer until now, the presidents that we have now doesn't resemble any presidents that we've had in the past. The Supreme Court ruled last summer that basically, as long as a president claims that his, probably never one day at this point, but his or her actions were in sort of the duties or responsibilities of the presidency that they define, that they're legal, right? I mean, like literally last summer, the Supreme Court said, whatever the president does is the law. They can do whatever they want.
That's
so
right.
Anyone who has been in power since then is not like any previous presidents. And now with the Supreme Court basically doing their own power grab and saying, hey, look, the only person who can make a ruling that applies to the rest of the country is us 9 members of the Supreme Court. This ruling that they just came down with, ending these injunctions, again, empowers the president of the United States, because if the president wants to write an executive order that says everybody has to wear red shirts on Friday or they're thrown in jail, right? You can't fight against that. You can't get a ruling against that in any court unless it goes all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States, which could take months or years. So yes, he is way more powerful than any president we've had in the past. That's one of the reasons the country's in so much trouble.
Dr. Johnson, all right, let me go glass half full. I'm going to come in.
I don't know why.
Okay. I'm going to go positive, and I'm going to say, all right, come up when the midterms happen, people will have their voices heard, and then when it's all said and done in a few years, oh, my goodness, we got a long time, but there'll be another president of the United States. Dr. Johnson, how long will it take for us to get out of the hole that's being dug?
I keep telling people this is a 20 to 40-year process. We're not getting out of this anytime soon. First and foremost, anyone who's thinking that we're going to get out of our current situation by the midterms is being very naive. Why do I say that? Because if you look at the way that this administration has operated in just the first 5 or now 6 months, right? There is no guarantee that the elections that we have in the fall of 2026 will be fair, will be recognized, or will even be counted correctly. If you see this administration, since coming into office, first with DOJ and then with his Department of Justice, have basically done away with any and all election security measures that have been implemented over the last 7 or 8 years. There are men and women whose whole job it was to be dedicated year-round for one day, election day, to make sure that federal elections were safe, to make sure that they weren't getting hacked, to make sure the ballots were getting counted. Those people have all been fired. Those people have all been let go. So purely from even an outside attacker who'd make sure that our elections last fall don't reflect how the people feel. And then you have an administration that is led by an individual who has said that if he doesn't like the policies of another party, that people should be arrested. You have a president who leads a party that has said, I want to move troops into the state of California, into Los Angeles, until their governor or the mayor of LA steps down. You have a presidency that doesn't resemble a presidency. So if you think that the very people who got into power after attempting a violent coup in 2021 are going to allow the people to determine whether or not they can stay in power next fall, I have a bridge to sell you made of ice in downtown Miami.
Dr. Jason Johnson, MSNBC contributor, political professor. I know, and I'm gonna put on the hat of some of our listeners who say, this is what we voted for. More people voted for this. This is what we wanted. And you are just fear-mongering. How do you respond to that?
Oh, no. I'm perfectly happy with the people that this is what they wanted. And if they get grabbed in the streets by ICE, or their relatives get grabbed in the street by ICE and thrown into another country in a gulag, and they have to spend $100,000 to get them out, that's what they voted for. if they wanted to vote for a 22-year-old who bagged groceries to be the head of our national counterterrorism organization in the face of wars with Iran, that's what you voted for. I'm not saying that anything that's happening right now isn't what people voted for. What I'm saying is what they're getting right now isn't very good. That's my issue. I have no doubts. I've said this to Gee, I've said this to tons of people. I think the election last fall was legitimate. I think the election last fall was a reflection of how people actually feel. The Pew Charitable Trust just came out with sort of their definitive post-election analysis, which is one of the most reliable ones. Even if the people who decided not to vote had voted, Donald Trump still probably wins the majority. So there you go. This is what you voted for. But again, if what you voted for was attempting to start a war with Iran, if what you voted for was millions of dollars being spent on a birthday celebration with tanks, if what you voted for, I'm sorry, it's been 6-7 months. My gas prices have not gone down, nor have eggs gotten any cheaper. But what I do see is everything from Dodgers games to downtown markets being emptied because you've got ICE running around like some sort of mini Gestapo. If that's what you voted for, more power to you. I hope more people say they don't want this down in the future, but this is literally what people voted for. And if they're okay with it, they're fine to be that way.